Welcome, everyone, to Freshly Brewed, a new series put on by LEAP, the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, for our One and All program and entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs alike throughout our Tri-County region. My name is Tony Willis. I'm the Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Innovation for the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, which is the economic development organization for the region of Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton counties. And I have a great guest today, who's not only an amazing entrepreneur, but an even better person, I would say, on that. Fathy, Shetiah, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time this morning. This is, like I mentioned, this is a new series. This is our first episode ever, and we're honored and privileged to have you as our first guest with this and taking your time for that. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, and so this is a casual conversation. You know, it's just us talking and to get insights because we'll get more history about you, but there's like a framework here is to get more insights about your journey, to how you became and what motivated you to start your business, some of the emotions and thoughts at your certain turning points or pivotal moments in your business, and how have you expanded, and then, you know, ideally what's next. And so the whole idea is to have a casual conversation over coffee, freshly brewed, or any brewed, I guess, beverage. There's a lot of things could be brewed, but, you know, it's still pretty early, so we'll go with coffee or tea. But with that, Fathy, how about you give us some more insights on about your background and tell us a little bit about yourself here. I have your introduction or your bio, but I'd love to get it more from you. I know that you're a first generation immigrant to the United States. You went to MSU. You have established and started a number of businesses in different industries as well, which is quite amazing in itself. But give us more insights about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. First of all, I appreciate everybody that is on this podcast today, and I'm honored to be your first guest as this podcast continues to grow. A little bit about myself. My name is Fathy Shetiah. I came to the U.S. back in 1989 at the age of 14. Just like any middle school teenager, it was a lot of struggles trying to learn the language and the culture and so on. Had a lot of great people in the process helping me throughout the way. I was fortunate enough to come across a great support from school districts to the city and so on. Continuing on my journey, graduated from East Lansing and then MSU in marketing, and then did some banking for a good 7 years. I managed some branches for PNC, back then National City Bank. Learned a lot, a great deal about business and partnership and entrepreneurship and so on, and really how to manage that type of environment where it's very structured, but at the same time, we had to be very innovative and creative in meeting our goals. So that was an interesting thing for me because I never had any banking background. Graduating from college in marketing, it's very different. But it's a true indication of when you put your mind into something, you can definitely make it work if you have the right tools to do so. So after 7 years in banking, I decided that I wanted to do something. My brain just kind of wanted another challenge, and so my brother was already in the Big B world. So I joined him in 2006. He had a bunch of stores at the time, maybe about 10, 12. And I've always been an investor in the Big B side with him. However, he's been the one that is running that. So in 2006, when I wanted to leave banking, I looked at a lot of different options, and definitely Big B was a great concept to be in. So he persuaded me to join him, and I sure did. And between the two of us, we have over 20 stores currently. So that's been a fun ride. At the same time as I was leaving the bank, I had a great client of mine at the time that had some work that needed to be done in the language space, which I knew nothing about. I didn't really know a whole lot about that world, but because I spoke Arabic, he came to me. So I helped him out on that, and then he came back and says, "We got to make this more legit." So that's the birth of 7C Lingo. So we started that in 2007, and we do a lot of languages, translation, document translation, interpretation, and culture training and diversity and so on. So that's the journey in a nutshell. So
no, That's perfect. You shared that, and yeah, there's some parallels there. Probably a lot of our members in our cohort will see themselves that whether going to college or coming from another country or another community into an area and establishing yourself and uh, going from that point on to a role. You know, you mentioned you had a degree in marketing and got a job in banking. I had a degree in communications and got a job in banking. So it's right. And I was in banking for about just over 6 years and transferred in economic development. And so there's no straight path to where you're at. And so just take the moments and know that you can take those skill sets are transferable in a lot of different areas. But as you know, from your brother, and is this your older brother or younger brother? I wonder.
Older brother. I'm the youngest of five.
You're the youngest of five. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm the second oldest of five.
Are you really? Okay. Excellent.
It's like a parallel universe here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's right. Okay. So got your older brother. You know, he definitely, I say, probably influenced you to assume and about getting into the business side here. But can you give us more insights of where did your inspiration or drive come from to launch your first business?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely my brother has a huge influence on me. He's 7 years older. So when I came to the U.S., he really was pretty much all I got. So he came with me, or a month after me. But from the beginning, really, we were raised to, I guess, not stop. It's kind of one of those things that you just keep going. My whole family has been in the business world. My dad was a farmer and we had our farm and that type of stuff. So, and then my uncle, when I came here, had his own export business. And maybe it's in the blood, I guess. I don't know, being in business. However, my wife's side of the family is very much not in that space. They're very structured. They want the guarantees of the job and the stability. So that was a challenge, having her, when we got married, to kind of see that whole different side of things. And it's 24/7, 2-3 o'clock calls in the morning, and never being able to plan a weekend or that type of stuff. So those were some of those struggles. But the inspiration really came from the inside. Whether I worked in the bank or I was on my own, I think I was the same. When I was at the bank, it was about how can we get the job done. I don't want to not help somebody. We got to find a way to be able to make this work. Right. And I think it's more in the personality. You hear a lot people, maybe sometimes they do different things when they work at this company or when they have their own business. I think one of the things that I really learned from my brother was it doesn't matter where you work, you're the same person. And you got to give it everything you got. So whether I'm employed or employer, I don't think it ever made a difference. We're the same people. Maybe I work less now than what I did for somebody else.
Okay, that's a great, unique and introspective look at it. It comes from inside, right? The role doesn't define you. You define the role. Your attitude into it makes it happen, right?
Absolutely. And I would honestly, I never understood that when we get a lot of people and a lot of people ask for advice. I want to go in my business. I work 67 hours a week and I'd rather do it for myself. I don't know if that was ever my philosophy. I'll still, if I leave everything I'm doing today and I go back to banking or somebody else, I'm still going to be putting in whatever I need to put in to get it done. So that comes from inside, I think. And that's something that I personally value very much, and I would say my brother, I got that from him 100%.
Oh, that's awesome. It's good to have family like that to inspire you and push you. I know family dynamics are all over the place, same like mine is as well. But that's part of life, and it's great to have. And so let's talk about you mentioned we're in banking, and then your wheels are still turning in your mind and wanted to venture out and do something else. And your older brother has already established was in the operational side of the Big B business, as you mentioned earlier here. But I want to get more to talk about, your personal, moment of faith when you decided to say, okay, let me actually leave the banking world and then go in this full time and take those steps to actually, you're already a co-investor at some point, as you mentioned, right. And then take in the operational and growth trajectory of the franchise that you have. Give us some more of your, some of your thoughts and your feelings you can recall of how did that play out during that time frame?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's really interesting because I think when I tried to leave the bank, I think I probably had one of the best jobs that I can possibly ask for. Again, banking is awesome because it's Monday through Friday and you're very structured. There's a lot of great holidays. There's a lot of great things. So from that perspective, it was a lot to give up. And really, I think my wife she was extremely supportive, but I think she struggled with that too because it's just a whole different change dynamic. But the leap of faith, really, it was just I needed to be challenged, and I felt like where I was at, I ran out of things to be challenged. My next move was to move out of town and go somewhere else, and I did not really want to leave Lansing. I wanted to be here. So if I wanted to continue to grow in banking, excuse me, I knew ultimately I had to go somewhere. I had to be outside Lansing at that moment in time.
Right.
And I was offered different things in Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, and Flint, actually, for that matter, through another bank. But I just did not want to do that. I did not want to commute. So I knew that I needed another challenge. And when I left, I didn't really know what to expect. You talk to a lot of people about being in business on your own, and everybody tells you how difficult and challenging it would be. I met with Bob and Bob Fish, the founder of Big B, the co-founder of Big B. And we had those long conversations. And he was one of many people that I talked to because I really wasn't sure if Big B was the answer. And the idea of working with my family member, is that really the best idea? And somebody as close as my brother, I don't want to ruin that, especially coming from banking. And you see a lot of the negative things that happen. You get families that walk in as really good friends that start a business. A year later, things happen. Yeah. So I really was very cautious of that. That was very scary. And that was probably the hardest thing, is how do we make sure that we reserve the family side of it and make sure that this does not ruin what we have going, more so than the actual business side of it. That was something that my wife was afraid of as well. We did not want to take the risk of ruining the family.
No, yeah, I hear that. And that's a crucial part. So my wife's an entrepreneur as well. She has 2 businesses going on at this time, and it definitely is something to think about, because it's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of hours. You mentioned you are the point person. Even in my role, there's difference to that, being a VP, I oversee a team and staff of folks, but then that's her business altogether. It's her vision altogether. Mine's a collective of other folks when we are part of an organization like this. But how did you, if you wouldn't mind sharing how do you manage to keep that aligned with both your brother and your wife, and the understanding of some of those conversations? I think a lot of our members in our cohort might have spouses or other family members might be partnered with. And how did you come to terms or work out terms to make sure that, yes, this is business, and business, there's ups and downs, but we're family, and our family, our bond is blood and family. Our friends should be beyond these endeavors.
Right. Well, it's definitely not a one-way street. It's not all about myself doing it. I think if it wasn't for my wife and the support that you have from the back end of it, it would be a nightmare. And really, my wife was extremely understanding. That doesn't mean that she wasn't frustrated at times.
Right.
Family was not frustrated at times, or my brother and I did not disagree. We disagreed a lot, and we still do. But I think at the end of the day, it's both sides' commitment to the end goal, which is, nothing will ever come in between. Ultimately, what we're about, work will come and go. I remember, in 2006, things were great. Then obviously the recession of 2007, 2008.
3 years later, yeah.
I used to joke about it that I was a genius when I left banking because I knew what was going to happen. Of course, that was not true. But then when I went to the retail side, the Big B side, it was tough. I mean, those were really the true test to all of our characters and everything we're about, whether if it's family or work or whatever it is, because it was hard to hire people. It was everything was it was weird. It was things were so great, and all of a sudden also we didn't know what's coming. And we were at that time, we just purchased some stores in Ann Arbor, and those were very, very expensive. We bought them at the peak of cost in terms of how expensive they were, right. And we lost tons of money on that. and that could have been enough to really distract both of us on from what's important. But I think luckily, we stayed the course, even though we lost a ton of money, lost a lot of energy, and we were on the road a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a commitment, I think, that from all sides. It's not just I can do obviously so much, but the back end is more important, which is my wife in that case, and my brother's wife, and the family, and that support. Even when we had a bad day, I think we still needed to get together as a family and just kind of mention, So it takes a lot of adjustments. I guess it's not easy.
No, I understand that. I appreciate you going into those details like that. And I think you said something that's profound in my mind is the commitment to the bigger goal.
Right.
Right. The bigger goal to who you are as a family unit, brother and your wife, and just as a unit as a whole, but then to the bigger goal that will allow us to achieve something. We're in this together because this will provide something for us, our friends and family as a benefit, and our community as a whole. The bigger goal, I think we really, you think of the most awe-inspiring entrepreneurs and some sorts or innovators, there's usually a bigger purpose at play as well.
Right. Yeah, and for us, honestly, again, I think, and many people will probably tell you this. Sometimes, most of the time, honestly, it's not about the money. We don't do, of course. At the end of the day, you got to make money on it. There's no doubt. Right. I mean, we're not taking that away, but the motivation is not the money. For us, the motivation is really the success of it and seeing it go through, and being able to say, "This is my work." And that goes back to whether I work for Leap or I work for a bank or whether I work for myself. That will stay the course, with everybody that we touch in terms of myself and my brother, and hopefully our kids are learning that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think they are. What I've heard from you, and I know in the past, I definitely think you're planting some great seeds to let them blossom in them and have them follow your lead. So along with those points, I want to get some more insight, from your history, from coming here as an adolescent, from a different country, being an immigrant, coming here, being a first generation immigrant.
Right.
In that experience. And so I'm from Oak Park, Michigan, originally here, right? And so there's if I say demographics, I'll say it's predominantly Black, Jewish, and Chaldean community, and in the Oak Park area. Then I moved here to East Lansing for high school, right? And one of the best things moving here to East Lansing during my high school experience was getting to know so many people from so many different places across the world, because their parents were either came here to study at MSU and the kids went to East Lansing High School, and having that variation. So all my closest friends, my best friend, Willa, who best man at my wedding, everything else, he's from Zambia, right? And I met him, he came here to transfer. And so we've been thick and thin ever since. And, him being a first generation immigrant also, I wonder, how does that shape your experience? And how do you think that shape your trajectory as a person, and how it relates to business thus far?
That's, I think, again, coming at that age, I didn't really know what to expect. It's not like I came for school.
Right. It's
not like I came to get my PhD or come and find a job. I mean, that was not the case. I came because and to be very honest, I came because really, what you see in TV of Hollywood and the likes, and this is the America that you have. So it really never crossed my mind, how am I going to function? I knew that I'm going to come to a different culture and different language, but I really never spent time thinking about how am I going to communicate with Tony.
Right.
My first 3 or 4 years, it was extremely rough because I couldn't speak a word of English. So it was really, really rough. So I think that by itself, when I came, I faced the reality that I wasn't really told, or I didn't really expect, or I wasn't really aware of the magnitude of the difficulty, just from an emotional level. When you come from where I came from, it was a small village. I knew everybody. I had a lot of friends. Everybody knew me. Everybody knew my family. everybody knew everybody, so to speak. You come here and you're all by yourself. I'll never forget, the long lunch hours at school, and you're sitting there by yourself, and the only person that will come and say hi is the one that wants you to say something back to that person. So they can laugh at you and that type of stuff. But that was the reality that I never thought of. And I think by the time I got to high school, and by the time I really start learning and start playing sports and start getting a little bit more popular, things start shifting. And I really and then I made that commitment, I got to be who I am. So I kind of rediscovered myself also during that time. And I really start focusing on what do I want to become. So I kind of, without a plan, you knew that you had to commit to something bigger than what I'm seeing right now.
Right.
And I think that kind of shaped me because, again, I was never as determined. I had to learn the language. I had to deal with people, different culture. Everything is very different. The way you have fun is different. The way you eat and drink is different. The way you're making friends are different. And everything was just completely different in so many ways. And I like to remind people that are coming from overseas, they're not bad. It just, they might be different. And I had a lot of great support from particular teachers and particular people. And I think I owe a lot of where I'm at today because of them, because they were extremely patient with me. They taught me how to care for one another without making it sound like I'm different in a negative way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. They take your unique individual characteristics, and that's a benefit. They're not.
It was huge.
Right. That's great, because that kind of goes into my next point and another question here. When I think about you operating and overseeing a number of the franchises, 7C Lingo, there's Tabooly as well, and other business ventures you have. When it comes to hiring, or not just hiring, when you start a venture, it's best to have a team with you, have people to lend the support on, right? And I always think that, I look at my team, I try to find people that are not like me as directly, because I need somebody to see from a different perspective as me, have a different skill set. In the radar graph of where we're at, I need somebody to be stronger in my areas where I'm weaker at, right? And can you give more insight of how what did you look at when starting 7C Lingo, compiling your team around to make it successful as it is right now?
That's a great question. I think 7C, for me and everything we do, we wouldn't be here without a great team, and we do have a great team. Unfortunately, we're also in an environment that, the world that we live in is a retail world. So the turnover is always not on our side. Turnover is pretty high. And it is, it's that leadership and it's that go-getter mentality that keeps you focused. And I think the team, most people like to be led without them admitting to that, if they find the right leader. Right. And I think most people also will jump off the ship if they don't find that good leader. But I think most of us are not fighting to be leaders. Most of us just want to do a good job, but they just need to be led that way. So here is the complexity of how do you lead? How do you lead in the sense that, how can I take Tony, that I know he's really, really good at certain things, and I just empower him to do that, but I'm showing him the support and also making sure that I'm giving him the space, but not walking away from him, and not delegating to the point that that person is sinking. And that's not easy, because you have to be involved in every little transaction, but sometimes from a distance.
Okay, I see that. There has to be space there.
And I think that's really what we try to do, because a lot of the things that we do is, it's retail. It happens right away. So how do you, again, do we do it perfect? Absolutely not. Do we have a lot to learn? Yes. Do we need more help? Yes. Do we need to find more people, good people? Absolutely. But I think that's the recipe for us, is we're involved.
Okay, good.
Being involved. Yeah, I mean, I'm being involved to the point that sometimes some people might think it's too much, but we try, because when an email goes out, it's affecting all of us.
True. It's your brand. It's their organization's brand.
And we're too small to have all the right mechanism to avoid something like that. So it comes back on us.
Okay, that's perfect. Because you have to, in finding the right team, they understand, and you have those conversations that we're in this together. That success is, it's mutual success here. If we're all striving for this, we have to understand that, it will reflect poorly on me, we can reflect poorly on you, and beyond.
And that's something that I tried to tell my employees, and even this was when I was in my banking days. I used to tell people, I want you to want my chair. I want you to want my office. Because trust me, nobody wants you to be more successful than me. Because if you're successful, by default, I'm going to be successful. So therefore, yes, we take a look at it that way, and we want to attract the people that are going to be go-getters, not the ones that are just, they're just there for the paycheck. And that's a challenge.
Yeah, right. There's people, and have you ever, we have a couple questions here I'm gonna get to too, but especially I think people challenge when your direct need is at that time. I can imagine to hire somebody. It depends what your candidate pool looks like. I will say there's probably a challenge that people are on their own personal journey, and their motivations can change as the course goes as well, right?
And there's nothing wrong with that. But you as a leader, you just need to be there and understand that.
Yes, agreed, for sure. We have a question here. Can you see this? If not, I'll read it too. It's from Kyla Perkins. How do you keep a positive mindset with business, and what do you do for self-care?
So a positive mindset is the end goal. And my brother and I talk every day, 2-3 times a day, throughout the day. And then we do a recap for another hour at night. And it's not really a business recap, but it's more like a self-care recap in the sense that, we talk about every little thing and what was good and what was bad. What did we do today? How did you, and it could be, obviously it's a lot of personal and business stuff combined. And sometimes that is help because you're hearing his opinion about things they did not see and vice versa. Because I think in business, you need to surround yourself with good people, not necessarily as part of your team, but just as people that you can ask for advice and people that you trust. And I think that's important. As for individual self-care, we probably can do better. We don't do a lot of vacations. We don't do a lot of that type of stuff. We try to, once in a great while, go somewhere for a weekend or something, but that doesn't happen too often because both of us are very involved. So we need to do better there. But as for the positive mindset, which is, I think, one of the most important things, as a leader and as a self-employed entrepreneur and all that fun stuff, if you're not motivated, nobody else will be. If you're not positive, nobody else will be. So you're the one that has to find a way to keep everybody positive. So you got to work and focus on the end goal, whatever the end goal needs to be for you.
Okay, that's perfect. So we've got another question that's popped up here. Things are rolling now, Fathy. Look, here we go. This is from City Hood. Was there a reason to going into a franchise business rather than start up from scratch?
So at that moment in time, I got into it because my brother was in it. But to be very fair, franchising for people like myself and my brother, I would not do anything that is not franchised when it comes to some of these businesses, simply because when you have a franchise and if it's a good name and a good product, the system is set up. You have no idea how challenging and difficult it is to create systems and make sure that the consistency of what you're looking for is coming out. Anybody can make coffee. Do I need to get into a franchise to have a coffee shop? No, but if I want to be very successful, I need to have a lot of money because there's a lot to learn, and you're not going to be able to learn it on your own. So the franchise system helps you tremendously from that side. It gives you systems. It trains you on the right stuff. And just the thought that you don't have to worry about the recipes and what drink you're going to have and is so-and-so allergic to this or, there is just so much that goes into it. And even working with the suppliers, where are you going to get this product from? How many trucks do you want? How many deliveries do you want? Those are all very, very big positive things that when you have a franchise system, all of this stuff is figured out for you to a large extent. But a franchise by itself is not going to make you profitable.
Right.
you have to run it as your own invention, so to speak. Because I can tell you, even with Big B, as successful as it is, you have a favorite Big B, I have a favorite Big B, and it's for the culture that you see there that you enjoy. So, if you get into franchising, make sure that every store is your own culture. It's got its own feel to you. So that way people are coming and believing in you in that particular location.
Oh, that's perfect. I think franchises hold a lot of values, being that they're proven to a certain capacity, right? There's,
Yeah.
For any business, there's risk, and that's with anything involved. But you have, depends on when you get in on that, you already have a proven system or operations that you can then you recalibrate, to your market as the culture that you want to have. But for the most part, you have that proven set system where then you just then know to fill in the people and the other details that make yours pop versus somewhere else, right?
Absolutely. And just the support, just knowing that you can rely on somebody. And again, I don't believe there's a franchise system that is going to make you make money. You have to put the work into it. Yes, you can get by with some big brand names and things of that nature, but you're always going to ask yourself, can I do more? And if the answer is yes, then it's on you. The franchise system is not going to, it's not going to tell you, you need to be there 24/7. They might recommend that, but you and I know that that's not going to fly if you don't want to do it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You have to be realistic. That's correct. So we have another question here from Shana Allen, which is actually a question that's kind of flows off my list I had earlier too. Is you have so many various businesses, multiple locations in different industries. And what Shana's question is, how do you handle multiple businesses at one time? And how do you decide to prioritize each one? And so I think that's that part there first.
So I think it really kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's, it's the great team that you have. I can't do what I'm doing today without the support from my team and my family. I think my brother is a huge asset to making that work as well. He focuses primarily on the operational and the well-being of the Big B side. I handle the marketing and the social media aspect of that side. So we divide and conquer that way. He might handle the, again, coming back to the team and the partnership and how do you organize it, how do you lead? He handles a big bulk of that. I handle the other side. I handle the day-to-day operation of the 7C and the linguistic side and the professional development piece. But if he needs help there, then I find a way to squeeze that and make that work, and vice versa. So it's a lot of communication. That's why we literally, really talk about 2-3 times a day. Because one of the things that I think is very, very challenging, and I don't know if this is one of your questions, how do you keep this going? And it really comes back to that communication piece. And it's really, really easy. And Tony, you might have seen this in different parts of your career. People will find a way to try to break you, and either a family member or your boss. People will always try to find a way to say, well, he said, she said.
Right.
And I get that a lot, and he gets that a lot. And that's why we communicate a lot. And instead of Tony saying, well, Fathy says this to him, and instead of him saying, well, no, do it my way, no, he's going to step back and be like, oh, no problem. Just go ahead and do it the way he says it. And then he'll pick up the phone and we'll talk about it. And then something will go out on our behalf. So that's a danger that we see a lot. And it doesn't matter what kind of team you have. And yes, there's some phenomenal people out there, but we're human. We sometimes miss, I might sometimes say the same thing as Tony, but it's understood differently.
Okay, that's a good point. It might be received differently. It might be phrased a little bit differently also.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And it could have been at a different, you can ask me a question when I'm doing something, I'm going to answer it a certain way because of that situation.
That's true. During that,
some answers for us are very situation driven.
Okay. That's a good point to note. And to furthermore Shana's point, and kind of my point too, You gave us one of the tools that you use is the frequent communication, the check-ins. I think
Yep.
that's great. We have, especially you're running multiple organizations, that for your key partners, that to talk, early and often is needed, right?
Yes,
And to make sure on the same page.
absolutely.
What other ways are, kind of what to Shannon's point here, how do you prioritize concerns? So let's say, 17 Lingo has this one going, as well as Big B, one of your Big B franchises has this going on. When you
Yeah.
have those possible competing interests for your time, because I probably have a few of our cohort members might have maybe two different startups or businesses they're running at their point in time right now, and they're trying to figure out, how do I manage and prioritize? So can you give some more insight about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I won't have the best answer because everything is so situational. So for me, honestly, like he'll call me up, let's say, and he says, I'm over at that store. Can you send me somebody? I need to do 1, 2, 3. Then I'll quickly get somebody to go help. Or he'll come back and say, I need you to come in to do 1, 2, 3. I got to look at what else I'm doing on the other side and see if that can be something that can be delegated, can wait, or I got to do it. And based on one of those, if this is a long nighter, then it will be. There are times that, I'm pulled. Actually, I gotta drive all the way to Toledo because we have stores in Toledo. There's got to be,
Right.
This weekend, for example, he just told me yesterday I might need you on the weekend in Toledo. So those are things that we can't think of it. We can't think ahead of how to navigate that necessarily. So it's on the spot. But you, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you will get to learn what's a priority, what needs to be done right now. And sometimes you're not going to get it right, and it's okay.
Okay, that's perfect to know.
Sometimes you're not going to get it right.
Right. I mean, that's with anything in life. It's and that kind of goes to the next question here. And after that, Caitlin, you can queue up the other two more. I would throw in my one of our plan questions. Then we'll get to this next question here from him, Langeli, after this here. Because you mentioned, like, sometimes we won't get it right. And I want to ask this question because, if 2020 has taught us anything, is that the need to be adaptable and to be to adapt to change, because the world can change, as we've seen to a degree, overnight. And can you give some how you adapted this year and in business, and some ideas or some thoughts you can share with our group as well about that?
Yeah, I think we're still adapting. I think we're still trying to figure out what's happening. I think adaptability and being fluid is something that is not going to go away. And really, if you look at any successful business and any successful leader, they have to find a way to be fluid. There is so much going on in the world. There is so much going on in technology. Things are moving so much faster than we have ever imagined. Those are the true challenges. The challenges today are very different, in my opinion. There's you and I probably, and everybody that is listening, we get so much emails, you don't have the time to reply back.
That is,
and we have so much text messaging that we don't know what to do with. And then we have so much notification from our personal Facebook and the businesses and that type of stuff. So I think the challenge is really becoming, how do I manage the flow of my life? And coming back to the simple standpoint of, what is my priority? What do I want to get done? What is my end goal? I'm telling you this because this is the true struggle. So yes, COVID or pre-COVID or post-COVID, the challenge is very similar, which is, how do I actually manage the information overflow? All of us, I think, then this is where, for us right now, I'm looking to invest a lot more in technology. I'm looking to invest a lot more in how do I simplify and do less data entry, for example. But the fear with that same mentality is, now I'm going to have a lot more information that I don't know if I'll have the time to even decipher it.
Right. So you say you could possibly lose, a little bit of your finger on the pulse to a degree, right? And
So I think those are the challenges, and talk about the adaptability. So I think for us as leaders, we have to now think about how do we need to lead differently.
Okay, that's
I
good.
can't lead the same way that I was leading before COVID or 5 years ago. I have to be leading in a different way immediately to prepare for the next 5 years and beyond.
True. You have to set that in motion now.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yes.
I think leadership is right. I think, being an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur or small business owner, you are the leader of your business, and your team, your employees. You have to be open to the change of what's going to happen, right?
Because I don't think we have a choice.
Right. I mean, that's you just have to be open to it and be present in the moment, that knowing that, yeah, I can't hold on to this because the current's moving, and to keep holding on to this, I'm just going to wear myself out, and I'm doing anything else justice by holding on to what worked at that point in time, with the current's pushing us all this way.
Everything is changing. The consumer behavior is changing. The way we shop is so much different. The way we get, we go to restaurants is so different, not just because of COVID, but just in general. I mean, obviously COVID it's got its own crisis, but it will pass. But one advice I would tell everybody is think beyond COVID. Keep your eye on the ball past COVID. Where do you want to be? COVID will pass, but your business cannot operate the same way it used to operate.
That is spot on. You can't just be caught in the moment we're at right now. We know there's things that will learn and last from this point on, but you have to be looking at the horizon of what's across the next bend.
Yeah, and it's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs like ourselves because businesses, things are tight. You don't have the cash flow. You don't have the sales that it used to be. So there are true challenges, but please do the best that you can, not to focus on COVID. If you want to stay in business, focus past COVID. Of course, you got to live today, and you got to pay your bills today, and you got to make sure that you have enough to keep things going. But if you want to maintain, one of the things that I said early on with what's going on in COVID is going to, a lot of people are going to be out of business, unfortunately. But the ones that are going to stay are going to be strong, but they're just going to find a way to make this time work. And things are going to be different, and maybe in a very positive way. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I can have we might have another time today, but I think as an economic development professional, I think that's the serious impact of COVID, is that knowing that so many businesses, unfortunately will go out of business. But it doesn't mean that person's journey stops there. They can pivot, possibly they can grow. There's other things in that case. There's even in a burnt forest, there's opportunity for regrowth and restart. And that's an unfortunate fact, but it's to be mindful of how that looks like.
Absolutely.
We have so we're getting close to our time here, but we want to have another question from our audience member. I'll answer this one, and then we'll do like our wrap-up question. Does that sound good to you, Fathy? Make sure I'm being mindful of your time as well for this.
Sure.
Let's see here. So this is from Deirdre Grace. How do you find out if the city is compatible allowing of a specific franchise?
That's a great question. I think I'm not sure if I have the best answer. I'm the right person to answer that question. But depending on what product and services you're looking to do, I think you need to do your own market research of that particular product and service, and if there's a need there, and then you got to go back and find who's the best franchise company that you can partner with that share the same values and beliefs that you do, and then find out if that city or that location or that area can meet that. For Big B, for example, I personally don't want to go to a market that there's no Big B there. Very, very difficult, unless if it's a small town. And the reason for that is if it's different if I'm the one that is owning and operating it versus hiring a manager. So if you take a Big B and you put it in a small city and it's owned and operated by a family member or somebody that is within that community, they do really, really well. But if I go and I put a Big B in an area where I just walk away and it's one of a couple of stores, and I hire a manager, it's just not the same. So again, that's a remarkable piece of information that are you going to own and operate it, and you feel like the community is connected with your products and services, I think it will do well. But be careful; it's not just because it's McDonald's; it's going to work anywhere. I mean, obviously, McDonald's may be an exception to that.
Right, but there's points there. I also appreciate you being directly honest about saying I know the exact answer. And to Deirdre's point here, I think talking to the city officials or authorities within that to see if that specific municipality has a ban on a certain franchise or a certain type of business, that's one way to start just right there. But Fathy mentioned when it says compatible, understanding that community is important. You really have a good sense of that community is important to know.
Yeah. If you're part of the community, I think you will do great. If you're really going to be hiring a manager to do it, I would be careful. I would do a lot of due diligence and talk to the right people, like Tony mentioned.
Yeah, and I have a few more other questions out there, but unfortunately we can't get to them all today. But we'll have future sessions of Freshly Brewed, and you never know, Fathy, we might get you back on as well, or another one-on-one session at another day in the future. But my last question is kind of like a theme question of the show here is what's next? What fresh ideas do you have brewing in your mind right now?
Well, it's there's a lot going on. There really is a lot going on. So one of the things that we're looking into this different models of different businesses. We're looking at. I can't really get into a whole lot of information on it because it's still in the idea stages. So I don't want to promise and not deliver. But there are some things that we're looking at. You probably remember going back and looking at the app idea that we were talking about a few years back.
Correct.
That's still something that on the brain, and looking to execute on it soon. And that for us, that's going to be a game changer in terms of how we conduct our business and how we do certain things. And it's pretty new to the market, so hopefully we'll have some good announcements coming up in the next 3 to 6 months. On the retail side, we are looking at other opportunities to expand that and see if there's different food and beverage environment or something like that we want to participate in. But I think for us right now is really trying to build the foundation for that. So our focus for this year and probably the next 6 months to a year is building the layers and building the team that can allow my brother and I to think really more strategically versus the day-to-day. So there's a lot of investment that is going on that side right now.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Yeah, the long-term investment play. That's where it's at. And then, ideally, as you continue to go forward, we look forward to being part of that and helping you out here at Leap and as best as we can. And so we're getting on. This is the wrap-up part right now. But first, I want to say thank you, Fathy, for your time, your honesty, the candid conversation to have here. Hopefully, we answered a lot of questions from people watching. And I think I walked away with some good points here, definitely. And I think our cohorts has too, for one and all. And so we appreciate you for your time, your honesty, the conversation, what you mean to our community as well. We're lucky to have you and own the business that you do, but also just being an all-around great person. I've known you and, through conversations of past, but I also know that your generosity in so many other ways with the community too. So that speaks for itself. So I really appreciate you, Fathy.
No, thank you so much, Tony. Thank you to the Leap team for having me, and definitely it's a pleasure to be here, and an honor. And if there's anything that we can do to help, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to share my email and phone numbers. If anybody's interested in learning anything more in our space and want to be part of anything that we can help with, we would love to help.
Awesome. And if I guess to do this, Fathy, we can also put, if you want to go to Big B's here locally or 7C lingo, we can list those out of translation services. We'll list those out in the URL when this we'll repost this out. So we'll have some traffic for that. But once again, thank you, and thank you all for joining us today for our first freshly brewed conversation. I think it was it was almost, it was way better than I expected. My coffee was almost warm. It got cold, but it's all good though. And yeah, so we'll see you all soon. And if you want more information for the One and All program, go to purelansing.com /one and all. That is spelled out ONEANDALL to hear more, to participate in things of this nature and other entrepreneurial support programs that LEAP has to offer. So thank you all, and talk soon.
Thank you.